welcome back to my channel. I'm Lucy, in case you don't know, and I'm the creator and owner of Made by Lucy and the online sewing academy that you can find details about on my page and on my website. I'll pop all the links. This morning I want to come on and I want to show you how to use a twin needle on your sewing machine. So I've been doing some new sewing lately and I've been trying to adjust what skills and what projects I do, increasing my excitement in sewing as I make new projects day to day. And to do that, I've been trying to use some different things on my machine. And one of those things is using my twin needle recently. I haven't done this for years, literally, and I really wanted to. I've been sewing with denim and it looks fantastic. It's such a great technique to use. It really brings excitement, bizarrely, to your sewing and sort of relights what you can do and what you can create. So let me show you how you can go about setting this up on your standard sewing machine and making your next project look incredible. Okay, so I'm here at my sewing machine, and first of all I'm going to show you how to set up your sewing machine ready to use a twin needle. Now if you haven't seen a twin needle before, this is an example of one here. And basically what it is it's a double needle on one needle shaft. So that's the one needle shaft at the top that goes up into your machine, and then that's the two needles that come down from that shaft. And this allows you to do 2 rows of stitching, straight stitching, next to each other, parallel to each other, really, really even and straight, and it just looks fantastic. It gives a really professional finish to your sewing, and you know, real strength and depth to your seams and hems as well. Now there's a couple of different twin needle options you can go for. This one is a universal twin needle, but you can also get a stretch needle as well. And you can also choose the size of your twin needle, just like you would your normal sewing machine needle. So you can get a different sort of thickness of your actual needle depending on what you're sewing. And then you can also go for the width of your twin needle. So this is a 3mm, but you can also get a 4mm and other sizes as well. And that measurement is the width between the two needles. So that's how wide your 2 rows of stitching are going to be laying next to each other. So this is a 3mm width one, a 90 needle, so it's quite big. And it's a universal. So you just need to decide what you're going to be sewing, what type of fabric, if you've got stretch or not, what size needle you want, and then how far apart you want those stitching lines to run. And that's the 3 different things you need to consider when you're buying a twin needle. So once you've got your twin needle, you then need to pop that in your machine first of all. So that's the first thing we're going to do. So you get one in a little pack. And exactly like you would your normal sewing machine needle, it's got a rounded front and a flat back. The flat goes to the back of your machine. So take out your previous needle if you've got one in there. You just pop that in your machine, just like you would a normal sewing machine needle, push it all the way up and then tighten by hand or by your screwdriver if you've got one to make sure that's nice and secure. So your needle is then positioned in your sewing machine exactly where it would if it was an ordinary 1 needle, but you've got the 2 needles coming down. Now on your sewing machine foot, you need to make sure you're using a foot that's got a big enough gap in the middle here to handle 2 needles. So a zigzag foot is perfect, and this is a wide 2 foot that I use for embroidery, so I'm using this one. But just make sure those 2 needles have got enough room to come down through that foot before you start sewing. And then you need to get your thread ready. So I'm going to be using just a standard straight stitch on here. I'm going to use a slightly longer stitch, but I'm only going to do that because I'm using a nice thick thread. So I've chose to go for an extra strong Gutermann thread for my my twin needle stitching, simply because when I was doing a project recently, I wanted to make a complete impact on my sewing. So one, by using the twin needle really gives that impact of the double line of stitching. And 2, by using an extra strong thread, it's really, really thick. So it makes, it gives good texture to your sewing and really makes those stitching lines stand out. So that's why I've chose to use extra strong thread. And you can just buy this online In your fabric store they may have some as well, and I've gone for this gorgeous mustard colour and very fitting today, very matching. So you want to fill up a bobbin with your chosen colour, just one bobbin, and that goes in your bobbin holder just like it normally would, no different. And then you need to get 2 reels of your thread. Now if you've only got one, you can transfer this to another bobbin and use the bobbin up the top for the second reel, or you can just buy 2, it's entirely up to you. So on your machine, you're going to put your 1 reel of thread and thread your machine up just like you would if you had 1 needle. So you pop it up on your spool holder here, you follow down your machine, thread your machine exactly like you would if you had 1 needle. I pop it through the thread guide above where my needle sits to hold it nice and close. And then I thread it to the left hand needle. So I'm just going to lower my foot to thread it. And then I just put that thread out of the way. Lift my foot back up, and then I want to thread my other needle. So with my foot raised, I'm then going to pop my second thread onto my machine. Now on my machine I've got a little hole at the top here. This allows me to put another spool holder on there. So I literally just clip that on, or this one actually is not for this machine, but this one will clip over your bobbin holder. So you may have one of those. Let me just move you up slightly. So this just pops on my bobbin holder. If you haven't got that, you can use a bobbin, like I said, fill that up with some thread and just pop it on there. Just don't push your bobbin holder across, just leave it out and then thread up. Or if you have got an extra spool holder, pop that on, and then that's where your second thread is going to sit. And then you're going to thread it through your machine exactly the same on top of the other thread. So just follow it around, don't worry too much, just follow it around like you would. This time I'm not going to put it, I'm just going to move you down. This time I'm not going to put it in the thread guide at the bottom here above my needle. I'm just going to have this thread loose hanging down, and I'm going to thread this through my right hand needle. So again, I'm just going to lower my foot to help me do that. Now when you're threading a sewing machine, single needle or twin needle, you should always thread your machine with your sewing machine foot raised. The reason for that is it opens your tension discs up when the foot is raised, so that you can get your thread sat in there correctly and therefore get your tension correct when you're sewing. I only put my foot down just while I'm threading my needle because it makes it easier and keeps it out of the way. It's already positioned in the tension guides when I'm doing this part. So I thread my second needle. My thread here is just hanging down the front of my needle. The other one is in the thread guide. And I'm going to put both of those threads underneath my foot out of the way. I'm going to hold them together. I'm going to turn my needle to pick up my bobbin thread, exactly like I would, no different. And I'm going to pop my lid back on. So once you've done that, I've got my 2 threads. I've threaded them on top of each other one at a time. They're both then through my twin needle here at the bottom. My bobbin thread I've pulled up. I'm then going to show you what that looks like when I use my sewing machine. So this is a denim fabric that I've been using to make a gorgeous pinafore dress, and this is what I've been using my twin stitching for. So I'm just going to show you close up here. So as you can see, both of my needles here have been threaded. This thread here, just to show you again, is not in my thread guide, it's just hanging down the front of my needle. This left hand thread is just sat behind my thread guide, so they're just kept a little bit separate. That just prevents them a little bit from getting twisted up. And then I'm just going to hold those 2 threads out the way. I'm going to begin stitching. You always want to test your stitching in your thread, of course, on your chosen fabric to make sure you've got the right tension, particularly if you're using quite a thick fabric like this. And it's as easy as that. I'm just going to show you how beautiful those stitches look. And that's the twin stitch, the twin needle. That's sewn 2 beautiful rows of top stitching on my project. It just gives such texture and definition and a real creative feel. And of course it's super strong because you've got 2 rows of stitching there. On the reverse, this is how it will look. So it just sort of ties it in a little knot on the reverse. Great little technique to have a practice at. Have a twin needle in your sewing machine kit for those times when you just want to jazz up your hems and your seams slightly more and add that little extra touch. So thank you so much for joining me today and that little tutorial. I hope that has sparked some inspiration to have a go, check out your machine and see what you can do on your next sewing project. And until next time, have a scroll through my videos. Don't forget to subscribe so you can see more from me coming up, and I'll see you all soon. Happy sewing, bye!